A, a guten Erev Shabbos, a good eve of Shabbos. As Shabbos is coming in very late, so we still have time that we can prepare. What's the ways that we need to prepare? Of course, we need to make some good food. I'm just going to shut off all the cameras right now, and afterwards we're going to come up with the cameras. Thanks. Sorry. So we need to prepare physically by having good food, the best foods for Shabbos. Someone who prepares and makes effort on the eve of Shabbos will indeed eat on Shabbos and eat well. Mitzvah to have tainik, pleasure of Shabbos. Now, in the preparation, of course, is also the preparation in spirit. We need to have the neshama prepared properly as we go into the holy day of Shabbos. And in order that we can truly live, you know, the story of the story that's told about Yankel, who lived in the former Soviet Union, and KGB or some kind of Russian communist comes knocking on the door, says, "Is this the home? Is this where Yankel Goldberg lives?" And he says, "No." And then he knocks again. He says, "Is that Yankel Goldberg?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Why did you tell me a moment ago when I asked you if this is where Yankel Goldberg lives, that it wasn't you?" "I didn't say that it wasn't me. I just said that Yankel Goldberg lives. You call this living? This is not living." So we need to live. And therefore we need to prepare for Shabbos and to have a good Shabbos. And in preparation, of course, again in spirit. So we're living in interesting times. For some people that's a curse, right? For the Chinese. But challenging times. Times where people are saying that we need to discuss equality. We need to discuss our attitudes to minorities, racism, entitlement, right? And these are issues that the world is grappling with. People are grappling with. What is the Torah's viewpoint on some of these issues? So you don't have to look any further than our Torah portion. And in our Torah portion, we have an interesting exchange. An exchange between Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and his father-in-law, Yisro. What's the background to the story? In this week's Parsha, the Jewish people, after being almost an entire year by Mount Sinai, they're ready to leave. And you know who else is ready to leave, but to go back home? Moshe's father-in-law, Yisro. And there's a fascinating exchange that goes on between the two of them. In chapter 10, book of Numbers, this week's Parsha, verse 29, and let me read. Then Moshe said to Chovev, the son of Reuel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, "We are traveling to a place about which God said, 'I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will be good to you. For God has spoken of good fortune for Israel.' He said to him," father-in-law, Chovev, or Yisro, he had 7 different names. He said to him, "I won't go, for I will go to my land and my birthplace." Moshe said back to him, "Please don't leave us, for you are familiar with the encampments in the desert, and you will be our eyes. And if you go with us, then we will bestow on you the good that God grants us. And in the end, he doesn't go with the Jewish people. But what does this mean over here that Moshe Rabbeinu says that you will be our eyes? What does that mean exactly? So let's look at this story of what goes on over here. And if we see something very interesting, and that is, sorry, all videos are off for now till the end of the class, and we'll all gather together to wish each other a wonderful, good Shabbos. Okay? But thank you for being here. One and all, those are on Zoom and those that are on Facebook. So, there's a fascinating fact over here that Jewish people, the wanderings in the desert, we see them protesting, kvetching, complaining, rebelling, often, whether it's about food, water, Moses' leadership, constantly. However, the entire year that Yisro was together with the Jewish people, not once do we have it recorded that the Jewish people are complaining. It seems that every issue that the Jewish people have is at bay as long as Yisro is there. And if we have any doubt about the centrality of Moshe's expression that Yisro will constitute the eyes of the Jewish nation, well, let's look ahead in the Parsha and we'll see that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't speak once about the eyes of the Jewish people as a result of his father-in-law's leaving, but no less than 7 times is it mentioned the concept of eyes in reference to the Jewish people. Now let me read here. So we read before from chapter 10, Yisro leaves. Now we have in chapter 11. Oh, maybe this is where chapter 11 comes from. So what does it say? The multitude among them began to have some strong cravings. Then the Israelites once again began to cry, and they said, "Who will feed us meat? We remember the fish that we ate in Egypt, free of charge, the cucumbers, watermelons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our bodies are dried out, and there is nothing at all. We have nothing but manna to look at." But the literal translation is, we have nothing but to the manna our eyes. Our eyes only see manna. In Egypt, we saw watermelon and leeks, we saw fish, we got everything. Here, we only got manna. Continues the Torah. Now the manna was like coriander seed, and its eyes, the word is translated as appearance, but the Hebrew word is ayin, is eyes, was like the appearance, again, eye, of crystal. Moshe heard the people weeping with their families, each one at the entrance to his tent. Hashem became very angry, and it was bad in the eyes of Moshe. Again, the word bad. I mean, eyes. Again, thank you. We're going to have everybody's video joining us shortly. Right now, we're going to be without the video, and shortly we'll all be together on video. Thank you, Shmuel. Thank you for joining. So again, I'm sorry. So it was bad in the eyes of Moshe, right? Moshe said to Hashem, "Why have you treated your servant so badly? Why have I not found favor in your eyes? That you place the burden of the entire people upon me. If this is the way you treat me, please kill me." Moshe says to Hashem, "If I have not found favor in your," guess what? Eyes. so that I not see my misfortune. So Yisro leaves the Jewish people. Moshe says to him, you need to be the eyes of the people. He leaves. He's not the eyes of the people. 7 times is mentioned here the word eyes. It's not a coincidence. They protest the Jewish people, and the word eyes is there, and it's not redundant. It's used in a negative reference. It's used in a reference to the degree that Moshe says to God, I have not found favor in your eyes. Obviously, because look what the burden that you're putting upon me. So obviously, there's a concept over here that Yisro represents the eyes of the people that is indispensable. Why? Was he to be the eyes of the nation? What was he giving to the nation that they were missing, that was seemingly indispensable, something that they needed crucially? In the end, he left. But what is it that they need? What is this concept of eyes? So there's 2 types of people. One is called a person of entitlement. What does it mean, a person of entitlement? Person of entitlement is an individual who got used to something and therefore feels entitled to have it. You know, the wealthy person who has steak and potatoes every Wednesday night might eat it with elegance, but feels entitled to have it. You know why? Because he always has it. Take it away, you're taking something that's important to that person's life away. That same steak and potatoes, you give it to a poor man that same Wednesday night, he's going to eat it without elegance. You know why? Because it's new to them. It's a novelty, and then you get excited about novelties. But you don't feel a sense of entitlement because you never had it. First time. So you go a little overboard with it. Entitlement comes when it's a given. You have an expectation that it's going to be there for you. And as a result, what happens? You lose perspective. You lose a focus. Because of that sense of entitlement, then you can also get bored with things easily and feel that, it's parochial, it's petty. I want something different. I want something new. I'm out with the old. I want something new. Why? Because there's a bored, you're bored with it. You've had it so long. I want something different. The Jewish people benefited from God's miracles every day. They got entitlement. We get miracles all the time, so we're entitled to have miracles. And then from that entitlement you get bored with it because you're getting it every day. Miracles from God, manna from heaven, a wellspring that goes with you wherever you are traveling. Miracle upon miracle. Well, it's old hat. Because of entitlements, and I want something new and different. I don't appreciate what I have. You lose sight. You lose perspective. You lose yourself ultimately. Comes the Yisro. Who was Yisro? Yisro was a person who wasn't raised in the Jewish community. His father wasn't the president of the local Orthodox shul. His mother was not, president of the sisterhood of the synagogue. He didn't have a Friday night meal every week with his family. He was actually an idolater. He was actually someone who came from a great distance. But because of that great distance, as the Yiddish saying goes, a gast comes for a while, can zet a mile. A guest comes for a while, can see a mile, can see much further. There isn't a sense of entitlement. When you're a guest somewhere, you don't feel entitled. You're a guest. He came as a guest. He came to something new. It wasn't something that he had every Wednesday night. It wasn't something that had miracles every day. This is all new to him. He had wide open eyes. He had a healthy perspective. He was able to appreciate everything that was given to the Jewish people. This is what the verse is telling us. But Moshe is asking him, please, we need you to be the eyes. As long as you're here, the people have to remember, at least through you, all of the gifts that we have, everything that is special about us and given to us. If you leave, they're going to lose sight. They're not going to have proper perspective. They're going to get confused because of then the sense of entitlement will overtake them, and they'll feel that they're entitled for something that they don't have right now, something that they want, whether it's meat, whether it's other things, even rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. So, what's the message in our lives? So, of course, we need to surround ourselves with people who have made a sacrifice for God, made a sacrifice for Judaism. Yisro was an non-Jew who converted. He sacrificed. And because of sacrifice, there wasn't an entitlement. So we have two types of people: those who are entitled and those who sacrifice. And there's really not in between. Either you think it's coming, something's coming to you, or you sacrifice for another, for the other, for God, ultimately. And in this day and age, with protests, forget about the violence. Violence obviously is off the charts. Even the concept of the protest. Where does that fit in? Is it as an expression of entitlement, or is it an expression of sacrifice? If what we engage in is ready to sacrifice for whatever is necessary, and not a sense of entitlement, then whatever we engage in has value and meaning. Now, let me be very clear about this. Of course, there's in Judaism, there isn't a concept of rights, there's a concept of responsibility. So it's not about rights that people have, it's about responsibilities that we are obliged with. And God gives us responsibilities. So God gives us a responsibility that we have to treat people honorably, because they're created in the image of God, that we have to deal with them honestly. That's an obligation. So it's not about the rights that people have, it's the obligations that we have. Rights will lead me to a sense of entitlement. I'm entitled because I have rights. But that's the problem, that the discussion becomes about rights rather than responsibilities. because then whatever it is will come to an entitlement. And the ultimate where it came is an entitlement. Well, hey, this guitar, I could take it because after all, I'm entitled. Whereas the focus, the discussion on social media, the discussion in media, period, discussion between people is about what is my obligations? What's the right thing that I gotta do? What does God need from me? That becomes our conversation. Then it's then what will come out of that is how I'll sacrifice ultimately for another. And this whole issue doesn't become an issue. It's not an issue of a group's entitlement. It's not an issue about equality, because that's not the issue. It's not rights, obligations. It's not about entitlement. It's about what am I ready to give, even sacrifice. Yisro taught us that. He sacrificed. He had a whole world. He was on top of the world in Midian, but he gave that all up. Why? Because there's only the God of the Jews that he wants to be a part of. And he had the eyes to give that privilege and that uniqueness to the Jewish people. So then why did he leave? Ultimately, because every Jew had to own this for themselves, to be their own eyes, and not to have the eyes, the perspective, the direction from Yisro. He gave them a year's time. He gave them the benefit of his unique perspective. But now, they had to incorporate that and become part of their lives. That was what was necessary. So likewise, this is what the world's message for the world is. Doesn't seem to be that there's leaders out there that are saying this message that's necessary. Don't focus in on your rights, which will lead to more entitlement. Focus in on your responsibilities that will lead you to actually greater sacrifice for others and ultimately for God. That should be our discussion for Shabbos. That should be the discussion everybody has around the globe for the future of society and for ultimately for Mashiach's coming. So I'm going to ask everybody to open up their video here so we can wish each other a good Shabbos. I'm going to unmute. Any questions, any comments? Simcha, could you bring me my phone for a moment? Sim, it's my phone, if you don't mind, it's charging. If you could bring it to me. My phone, if you could bring me my phone, please, it's charging. So, any questions?
This reminds me of what President Von Kenny once said. Don't ask for the country to do for you, ask for do for the country.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Any comments, any questions? Jimmy Leib.
Yes, Rabbi Fine.
Great class.
I decided to surface. I've been in quarantine. Not that I'm sick, self-quarantined.
Anything to share?
Anything to share?
Just it's a blessing.
Well, you did a nice job on trying to bring the demonstrations that are going on in the U.S. and I haven't actually seen the news for quite a while and sort of out of it.
You're not missing anything. Don't worry.
Not, huh?
You're not missing anything.
Is it here? Is it here in Montreal yet? Is it here in Canada or sort of?
That's not what we want to come out with over here, right?
Right. Anyway,
that's not our goal.
You certainly connected it to to people, people have a sense of today of expecting something from them. You know, they're not really going to do anything unless there's something that they gain from it. So you're right in the sense that there's a large group of people, a large, very large number of people who have a sense of entitlement, not only to people who are demonstrating, you know, they have a right to demonstrate, but after a while, you know, it just becomes.
But again, the point of our conversation here today was that we need to change the conversation. It's not about rights, that the people have rights to demonstrate.
Hello?
You're right, that's enshrined in law. But
Right.
that's the point over here is our conversation should turn to not what my rights are that will lead then to entitlement and ultimate entitlement that is a very unhealthy one, right? A very unhealthy entitlement, as we saw what happened with the rampage of protesters. And we had last week, Bill, that shared with us what happened to his very own story here in Montreal. But we need to change the conversation to obligations. What does God need from me? What do you need from me? What does my community need from me? What does my family need from me? Where am I ready to go over and above and to sacrifice for my family, for my community, for God Almighty? That's where our conversation, we need to steer the conversation. So I've given a little content, a little chaimer, a little something that will allow us to make our Shabbos and the people we engage with, that we can change the conversation. And likewise on Facebook. Everybody there too? Please join in this conversation. All right, folks, if we don't have any more questions or comments, I don't see online any questions or comments. I want to wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos. Should be full of
Wonderful Shabbos to you,
joy, full of energy.
House.
Behaaloscha means, actually, you know what? I just realized the name of the Parsha ties in with the idea that we should inspire others that Behaaloscha means that when the flame of the menorah that Aaron kindles, that it should stand on its own. That we should inspire others with this idea that they should be able to stand on their own with the capability of becoming true lamplighters and changing the world for good. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful, meaningful Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Everyone.
Good Shabbos.